What's up, everybody? Nick Dwyer back for the 10th inning with another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw Greg Maddux throw a 76-pitch complete game. We don't have anything quite like that today. If we did, it'd be Greg Maddux again. But we do have some interesting things to get into, including more Tour de France's, some British Opens, and some more MLB Hall of Fame inductions. So if you all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel, like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. We start out today in 1866, and the Cincinnati Baseball Club is first founded. Now, the Cincinnati Red Stockings were the first Major League Baseball team when the MLB was actually introduced. It wasn't introduced yet, but this just shows how old the Cincinnati baseball team really is. 2 years later, we move to 1868, and the All England Lawn Tennis Club is founded as the All England Croquet Club, and in 1877 they would officially change their name to the All England Croquet and Lawn Tennis Club. And speaking of that, we move to 1907 at the International Lawn Tennis Challenge. Norman Brooks would defeat Herbert Roper Barrett 6-2, 6-0, 6-3 to give Australasia a 3-2 victory over the British Isles for their first of 6 wins overall. We move up to 1921 and we have a world record at the time when Edward Gordon would set a then long jump record at 25 feet 2 3/4 inches or 7.69 meters, and he would hold this for 3 years. 1 year later in 1922 at the 16th Tour de France, Firmin Lambot would win his second of 2 overall Tour de Frances. We moved to Major League Baseball in 1925, and New York Yankees legend Lou Gehrig would hit his first of 23 career Grand Slams, a record that would stay until Alex Rodriguez finally broke it. Back to the tour in 1933, at the 27th edition, Georges Spiker would win his only Tour de France. We moved to golf in 1960 at the U.S. Women's Open. Betsy Rawls, with a score of 4 over, would win her 4th Open title, 1 stroke ahead of runner-up Joyce Ziske, to win her 7th of 8 majors. 2 years later in 1962, we have a Hall of Fame induction, and Jackie Robinson will become the first African American player inducted into the Hall of Fame. Joining Robinson on this day would be Bob Feller, manager Bill McKechnie, and outfielder Ed Roush. We stay with Major League Baseball 2 years later when Kansas City's Bert Campaneris would homer off of Twins pitcher Jim Kaat in his first MLB pitch, and Campaneris would once again hit a home run later in the game in the 7th inning, tying the game on a 2-run home run in the team's eventual 4-3 victory in 11 innings. 2 years later in 1966, John Pennell would pole vault a world record at 5.34 meters or 17 feet 7 inches. He would hold this for just about a year. 1 year later, we moved back to the Tour de France in 1967, and Roger Pignon would win his only tour. Now we move up to baseball in 1976, but we move over to the Japanese League, and Sadaharu Oh would join Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron, becoming only the 3rd professional baseball player at that time to hit 700 career home runs. The 33-year-old Yomiuri Giants slugger would finish with 868 career home runs, and would become the first ever player to accomplish this in Japan. Also in 1976, this time in Major League Baseball, Orioles outfielder Reggie Jackson would tie an American League record shared by 5 players after hitting a home run in his 6th consecutive game. This home run came in the 13th inning off of Danny Frisella, although it did not help the Orioles in the eventual 4-3 loss. Now we move to 1978 at the Tour de France. Bernard Hinault would win his first of 5 overall Tour victories. Also in 78 at the U.S. Open on the women's side, Hollis Stacy, with a score of 5 over, would successfully defend her title 1 stroke ahead of runners-up Sally Little and Joanne Carner to win her 2nd of 4 majors. We move up to 1989 at the British Open, and Mark Calcavecchia, with a score of 13 under, would win his only major after a 4-hole aggregate playoff with Greg Norman and Wayne Grady. Move up to 1989 at the Tour de France, Greg LeMond would win his 2nd of 3 overall tours. 4 years later in 1993 in Major League Baseball, Yankees pitcher Mark Hutton would become the first Australian to start a game as a pitcher, as the Yankees would end up defeating the Angels 5-2 on the day. And on the day, Hutton, 8 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, 2 runs allowed in the victory. 1 year later, we stay with the Yankees in '94, and Don Mattingly would become the 6th Yankees hitter to get 2,000 hits, as he would just hit a little single to center field. We stay in '94 at the British Senior Open, and Tom Wardell, with a score of 8 under, would win 2 strokes ahead of runners-up Bob Charles and Dud Daziel. Stay at the British Open in 1995. John Daly, with a score of 6 under, would win his second and final major, 4 strokes ahead of runner-up Costantino Rocca. We moved to the Tour de France also in 1995, and Miguel Indurain would win his 5th consecutive tour, 4 minutes and 35 seconds ahead of Alex Zule. Now we go to 2000, and we have 2 baseball events to talk about. First, in the Hall of Fame voting, Carlton Fisk and Tony Perez would be selected by the BBWAA, and the Veterans Committee met in closed sessions and selected 3 people: Sparky Anderson, Bid McPhee, and Turkey Stearns. We stay in 2000 at the British Open. Tiger Woods, with a score of 19 under, would become the youngest player at only 24 years old to win the career Grand Slam and win his 4th of 15 majors, 8 strokes ahead of runners-up Thomas Bjorn and Ernie Els. Remain in 2000 at the US Open on the women's side. Carrie Webb, with a score of 6 under, would win 5 strokes ahead of runners-up Christy Kerr and Meg Mallon to win her 3rd of 7 majors. And finally in 2000, at the Tour de France, now there is no winner, although Lance Armstrong did end up winning the Tour de France for his 2nd of 7 overall, but in 2012, all of those titles disappeared, as they were stripped. Now we move up to 2006, and we start with the Tour de France, which was won by Oscar Pereiro for his only Tour victory. Then at the British Open in 2006, Tiger Woods, with a score of 18 under, would win his 2nd consecutive Open and 3rd overall, defeating Chris DeMarco by 2 strokes to win his 11th of 15 majors. We move up to 2008 in Major League Baseball, and Adrian Beltre would hit the first inside the park home run in the 8-year history of Safeco Field, now T-Mobile Park, in the 8th inning to center field off of Mike Timlin in the Mariners' 9-8 victory over the Red Sox. 1 year later, in Major League Baseball, 2009, Mark Buehrle of the Chicago White Sox would become the 18th pitcher to throw a perfect game in MLB history, as they would defeat the Rays 5-0. This would also be Buehrle's 2nd no-hitter, but this perfect game really came to play because he's not a strikeout pitcher. He had 6 strikeouts on the day, not bad, but it came to be after some great plays, especially Dwayne Wise's robbing a home run catch in the 9th inning. Finally, we have 3 separate events from 2017 to talk about today. We start at the Tour de France, and Chris Froome would win his 4th and final victory up to this point. Then at the Women's World Cup, England would defeat India by 9 runs in the final at Lord's to win their 4th overall World Cup title. Finally, at the British Open, Jordan Spieth, with a score of 12 under, would win 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Matt Kuchar to win his 3rd and final major thus far. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, I do apologize. If I mispronounced any names, I also apologize. But I will see everybody tomorrow for Nick Ridgewire and the 10th inning. Stay good, everybody.